Yo, it's Genetics back with another guide for the best god in the game currently across comp, ranked, casual, and also one of the hardest in support. It's a bit of a challenging one, which is why it's so long. All the times and all the stuff is in the description if you want to see any of the links to exactly what you want to see in the guide. So Yemoja's passive is two things. Yemoja's passive is how her mana works and also her basic attack healing. So the first thing to understand is Yemoja has Omi instead of mana. So Yemoja has a base amount of Omi, which is 7, and she can earn up all the way up to 10. Now, you will gain extra Omi depending on the level. So as you can see in the passive here, it says when you reach level 6 and level 14, you'll gain 1 extra Omi bar. However, you can earn an additional Omi bar by reaching 300 mana combined from 300 mana or MP5 from items. So let me give you an example. We're looking for 300. That's a magical number here, okay? So let's go Shoes of Focus, which is pretty standard, which is 250 mana. You now need 50 mana or MP5 from the items. So a standard build that I like to go is Lotus Crown, which provides 20 MP5, and we need 30 left. So as you can see that the bar here, 270 out of 300, and the next item that gives me 30 mana, 30 MP5, Heartward. And as you can see, the crystal filled up here. So this will be the 6, this will be the 14, and this will be the 300 Omi. So you can get an extra 3 bars, which is quite a lot. Remember, they don't convert to Omi per 5. This is not converted in any way. It just gives you extra bars. It doesn't increase your actual MP5. The way that your MP5 is increased, or your Omi per 5 is increased, is from cooldown. So that increases per percentage CDR you get. So you can see here, there's the number 1 here. And when we start purchasing CDR items, let's purchase Mantle Disco, which is 10%. You see it goes up 0.1. Let's buy another 10%, which is Spirit's Robe. It goes up to 0.2. We can buy another 10%. This one goes to 0.4, and then another 10% goes to 0.6. So Yemoja 1 is really simple. It's two parts. It's got a Bubble Bounce and it's got a Moonstrike. The Bubble Bounce is pretty simple. All it does is just bounces 3 times. Once does full damage. So if you hit both, the second one does 50%, and then it splits into 6 little balls at the end. These all apply items. They're very good for long range. As you can see here, these ones here are reaching towards the almost 60 range when you get all 3 going. You can see how far this ability really can go. See all the way out there. The enemies actually don't highlight red for it, but you have to just try and look at the back and see how far it goes. So you can see how far that range is there. Absolutely ridiculous on this character. So yeah, the one's extremely good for clearing the wave. The one's extremely good for poking people. Just throwing it over walls. Remember, it does go over walls. So you can throw you can hit enemies around walls, around corners. It's really good to also spot check corners. So if you're going around a wall, rather than doing this and checking, what you can do is you can just throw your 1 over, or you can just throw any of your 1s over. And if you see a number pop up, you can be like, oh shit, there's someone there, and back off. And as you've got infinite mana, you can kind of expend that mana when you get a few CDR items online. The second part of the ability is going to be Moonstrike. So Moonstrike is just a stun. It's got 5 parts to it. Each part does individual damage. So if you hit people right in the middle of the 3, so as you can see right here, it's going to stun, it's going to do damage, and it's going to do damage. Hit this guy with it right here. It's going to do 3 types of damage there, and a stun as well. So there you can see 3 hits of the Moonstrike. That's the perfect aim. It's extremely hard to do though. I would say late game of support, the most important thing to do is just to get his circle here. Now, one thing to remember is this ability is quite hard to hit. When you're firing from this far away, it's extremely hard to hit an ability this far. So one combo you can do, one little combo, is you can slow the enemy first and then stun, because the 1 does slow for 30% for 1 second. So it can give you that little bit of leeway to try and hit that stun. And remember, a 1 second stun late game every few seconds is nothing to scoff at. It's an extremely strong ability. But if you are struggling to hit it raw, then I would say and try and hit it with this slow. Alright, and the next ability is Yemoja 2. Yemoja 2 is very simple. You just have to know all the ways to use it. So let's start off with Yemoja 2 in the aggressive form. Yemoja 2 is just a straight line ability that does damage. However, it does do bonus damage to shields as shown in the tooltip there, starting off at 2 times and going all the way to 3 times. So that just means that, let's say you would do 200 damage in normal not to shields. Let's say someone's got 2000 HP and you hit them with a 2, it does 200 damage. If 600 of their health was shields, you would then just remove the entire shield doing 600 damage. This works especially well versus gods like Hera, Geb, Nike, and Odin. If you're not against because with shields, I wouldn't recommend using the 2, honestly, but you can find this useful against shells. If people are stacking shells, you can actually wipe that for your team. But again, Nike, Odin, Geb, Hera. But the second part to Yemoja 2 is the fact that it does insanely well for peeling. I would say Yemoja 2 is probably one of the top 10 reasons why Yemoja is really good right now. I just did the wrong thing. Meant to change team. So Yemoja 2 spreads. It's auto lock on as soon as long as you hit the first hit. You can spread up to 5 people, including yourself. So it goes from the closest to the closest to the closest. So if I were to stand in between, it would go from him to me to him. And then if I was to do it for him, it would always go to him to me to this Odin, because it always goes to the nearest person, and it spreads between. So late game, your team will group up for it, and it'll be extremely effective. It heals and it shields. The heal obviously can be anti-heal. The shield cannot. The shield will always give the same amount of shield for 3 seconds, and the heal will apply instantly. And these obviously stack, the shields stack on top of each other. And one little combo to do, remember the passive earlier gives 10% increased healing. Well, again, don't forget to be autoing in between 2 uses. Now, it does last 7 seconds, the buff, so you only have to auto the ally once for it. You don't have to keep weaving in autos in between every 2, but try and hit as many allies as you can with the autos before you do 2. So if you group the late game as 5 and there's people that are low, just auto them and then 2, and it'll heal everyone massively. And again, it does spread. So late game, this is pretty much going to be your main peel ability. This is 130 plus 130 with including scaling. This is a ridiculous ability. It only costs 3 Omi. Late game, if you've got 10 Omi and you've got your ult regeneration, it's going to be insane. So just try and group with allies and try and spam this late game. Yemoja 3 is called Riptide. It's pretty simple. It's just a little ring, really, but there's 2 parts of it. So you can see it's like a 2-part ability. So the blue is a Riptide that goes straight forward in that direction, and the orange is a portal that goes in that direction. So for example, when you're peeling for your allies, if you're running away, you just place it on the blue line and you get them out. However, if, for example, this Odin is chasing, let's see an ally there, and your Odin's chasing your ally, you can place the aggressive 3, and it will knock them back. And it will make sure, if you put that perfectly in between your ally and your enemy, it will stop them from getting towards your ally. However, you're going to remember as well is these Riptides do last for up to 6 seconds. So if you're trying to run away, if you're trying to run away and you've blocked off the enemy, they could turn on you, and you're now stuck in that corridor. So you have to be really careful about when you can use your Riptide to save yourself and save your ally as well. It does cost 3 Omi, so I would recommend not using this early game, and the same goes with the 2. Generally, I like double leveling the 2 at rank 3, and I don't like leveling this unless I really need it, if I'm against a Sobek or a Kuzma or a Hercules. Unless you're against an aggressive support, don't level this, because it's not great. It's 3 Omi. When you've got 7 Omi late game, spending half your mana on a 3 that doesn't really do much is kind of bad. Now, this ability does become really potent later on when you get the movement speed and the procs for 3 seconds. It's really good. But again, you don't really feel that in game. I would say the slow and the peel aspect and the movement speed, actually, the push is actually the most important thing. But again, this has little implications. So when a new war ult's coming in and your allies low HP, instead of spamming your 2 over and over, what the correct thing would be to do would be to auto 2 push auto. And then what that does is it gives them the shield, it gives them the increased healing, the shield, the prots, and then more healing again. So you can actually use your 3 for peel quite effectively. And on to Yemoja's 4th ability. Yemoja's 4th ability is massive. So 100 range, it is called River's Rebuke, and it's huge. Does a lot of base damage, has a lot of CC, has a lot of added things to it, and it's quite hard to use, even though it's bloody massive. So let's start off with the main thing. When you drop Yemoja ult, anyone trapped inside of it will get slowed initially for 90%, down to 60%, down to 30%, and that will last for 30 seconds. As shown in the tooltip, it starts at 90%, and then every second it goes by, it goes down another percent. But then the last slow applied is a 30%, which lasts for 3 seconds. It's quite powerful. What it allows you to do is when you will, it allows you to hit more of your ones in the area, and it also slows down enemies when you're trying to peel off your backline. Secondly, you also gain Omi regeneration. So again, it's one every 2 seconds, which is 2.5 every 5 seconds. So it's going to allow you to use a lot of Omi. This should go up to around 3.8. This should go up to 3.8, which is going to be huge for you. If you are low on Omi, you can drop your ult, and you can use that Omi regeneration to bait people. You can also use it to just spam your 2 late game, which is usually what I do as a support player, and what you should be doing if you're playing support, unless you're 1v5 killing the enemy backline where you're going to use your 1. Yemoja is very, very good, but people can walk out of it. It's usually best used in the jungle where you can block off entrances. So it's going to be used, if I'm trying to block off this wall here, you would just wall off here, and enemies can't walk through it, but I can. But there are certain things that are a bit annoying about the ultimate or hard to use, and you have to program it. So it's a little bit difficult to show in jungle practice, but if enemies running away from you in a straight line, like that geezer, and you're trying to get them trapped in the ultimate, let's say that Odin's just on the edge of my ult, what I'll do is you throw your 3 right at the end of it, and it keeps them trapped in your ultimate, and that 3 will keep them there. You can also do this. You can also double Riptide as well, which is something you might have to do in a real game. If you are ulting here and both places are filled up, this means that no enemies can now get out of that ult and they're trapped in. If you only place 1, they can just step to the side and get out of it. This also works the other way around with the ultimate, where you might have to place a push tide rather than a pull tide. So if they're trying to run towards you, you can just place your 3s defensively at that, and then they're trapped in and they can't get through it, because to them the Riptide's facing this way. So it's clear to remember that on every sport you should always start the same way, apart from Aphrodite, but that'll be covered in another guide. On this one, it's always Guardian's Blessing, Boots 1, 4 HP pots, and Hog. Again, items I like to go into is usually Thebes, Lotus, and Heartward. You can always change up the order of those 2. You can go Heartward first or Lotus first. Doesn't really matter, it just depends on the enemy comp. So again, if they've got 3 physical, go Lotus. If they've got 3 magical, go Heartward. But always go those 2 items. I like going Cryedwin, Mantle, and Spirit's Robe, not together. What I usually do, I usually pair 2 of those items with the 3 core items that I had there, and then pair it with 1 offense item. Any one of those 4 is the best, depends on who you want to focus. If you have a lot of healing, you can either go Divine Ruin or Ethereal. If your team's struggling to kill tanks, then go Magus. And if you want to kill tanks yourself, then go Reaver. We have a bit of a different one. I have built the Thebes and the Lotus Crown. The early game wasn't deadly enough for me to not be able to go Thebes. And in this game, I probably should have gone Heartward, but I think we were about to win, so I built the Reaver instead. So the reason you should have gone Heartward here is they've got Isis, Serb, and Fafnir, which is 3 magical. And they've also got Thorns. That's 4 reasons to build Heartward there. My backline would not be having fun against that. However, I've got a Janus who won't be grouped. So my auras, if your auras are only for 1 person, generally it's not the best to always build auras, but building Lotus is just really good anyway, because it's good for yourself, if anything. I've built, again, this is the Lotus Heartward situation, but I've built the Chronos Pendant. Now, again, I have said stick to those 4 offense items, do not build Chronos Pendant, but I was just experimenting here in this game. Realistically, I should definitely be building a Divine this game, or a Magus, or a Reaver. Again, Reaver deals well with tanks, Magus good at killing tanks, and the Divine is good against their healing, which they do actually have. We've got a very similar build, but a bit more damage this time, and the reason why I've built this way is because of our comp and their comp. So they've got a Siket and a Ra who don't kill tanks very well compared to other magicals and junglers, so I know that I have a bit more leeway when it comes to magical damage. They haven't got a lot of setup, and if they use it on me, my backline will freecast. So what I've gone for the Thebes and the Lotus, and I've built into a Divine Ruin. Now the reason I've built into a Divine is my Poseidon has built Divine himself, but Poseidon is not a very good anti-heal character. So as Yemoja is one of the best in the game, I've built the Divine, and then I decided I'm not getting focused enough anyway, so I built the Reaver to deal with the tanks and poke them out. So that when I've got 2 damage items, I'm extremely potent, and they have to focus me a bit more. But I've got the beads, so that's fine with that. This is where an example, they have 3 strong physicals early game, and they've got 2 magicals that will not be focusing me. So I've gone for the Thebes, double Fizz Aura into the Divine Ruin again. Divine Ruin to deal with the Wukong and his Soul Eater, and to deal with the On Her Lifesteal. This game, because they went 4 shells and they were dealing with a set, I knew I could freecast a little bit more, so I built a little bit more damage. And that's how I've built Yemoja in the past. And let's talk about the relics of Yemoja. My Yemoja relics are very simple. I have a very simple philosophy. If they have something that can kill me, I'm going to build beads. Do they have an Awilix? Do they have an Ares? Do they have a Darji? Do they have a Sobek? Any of those kind of characters that have hard seas that could put you in danger, you build beads. Hey, don't even feel bad about it. Your character is so OP that if you build beads, it doesn't matter, you'll win anyway. So let's say you build beads. You always want to go one of 3 relics next. You want to go Sprint, Shell, or Blink. Now, usually if I'm going Sprint, I would never really go sprint with beads. So usually I go blink or shell with beads. It just depends. Do you have a lot of engage on your team? Well, you can go shell. Are you peeling for backline? Are you diving? If you're peeling, you typically go shell. If you're diving, you typically go blink. A good way to decide on blink for me is I look at the enemy carriers and I think, do they have jumps? If they don't have jumps, then I'm fine building blink. If I'm against a Cupid and a Poseidon, then I definitely build blink because they have no escapes. I blink trap them in late game. You've won the game. Compared to, for example, a Persephone and a Jingwei who can jump or ult out. And then is my blink really worth it? Well, it could be worth it if I'm forcing Jingwei ult, but Persephone can dash out, so I'm only forcing one ult for a blink. It's not usually worth it for the most part. So I usually would say always go beads and always go either blink or shell on Yemoja. This is the leveling for Yemoja. It's always fairly simple. Put a point on you 1, point on you 3, double level you 1, put a point on you 2 to make sure you've got it leveled, then level your ult at level 5. You're going to start trying to max out your 1 here. As soon as you can't put any more points into it, because it's level rank 4, I would just max my 2 now. You could finish off leveling the 1 if you want to, if you don't like the extra dot being missing, but I find the 2 being more useful at the point, compared to an extra 25 damage on the bounce. I feel like 50 extra worth of shields and healing is a bit more important, but it's up to you. And then you want to max out your 1, and then just put as many points as you can in your ult while leveling your 3 at the same time. It's fairly easy. Again, what you want to be doing, you want to be double bouncing the wave, trying to stun the enemy ADC, and then double bouncing the wave again. That's pretty much how you're always going to play the laning phase. And then at that point, it just comes down to trying to stun the enemy. If the enemy team pulls Gold Fury all the way here, let's say this is a bit of a different pit to Smite, but to Conquest. But let's say they pull the Gold Fury here, and let's say the leash range is right on this line here. As soon as they leash it, the health starts resetting. So what you're going to do is you're just going to wait for them to get it. You're just going to wait for them to get it half HP, and you just throw a 3 on them. And what's going to happen is as they try and pull this Gold Fury, they're going to get knocked out of range of it. And the Gold Fury will leash, and the health will reset, and then they can't do the objective anymore. And as soon as the objective is leashed fully, which is a lot easier to do in Conquest, all the abilities they throw on the objective are then useless because they've all been healed up. Let's say they're about to throw a Poseidon Kraken on it and try and secure it. Well, shame because you've knocked them back. So that's a really important use of Yemoja 3. So you can actually stun objectives, stun Phoenixes. See, they stand still and it's back. It's only for 1 second, but if I'm getting hit here, stun it again. You see, you can stun it there for a second. I've never used. I'm honestly going to say I've never used this in a real game. It's such a minute thing that it's so impossible to use. But you know what? Maybe you can find a situation to use. So when you're pulling buffs, let's say you're pulling purple buff in dual lane, and as you pull the buff, you drop your 1. You're going to take a small step back. And you see there, that third hit also hit there. If you don't do that, if you just pull the buff and double drop it like this, you're going to see 1, 2, that's it. So when you pull the buff, take a small step back, and that extra ball bounce will hit, and you'll do an extra bit of damage on a buff early game. Now, there's a bit of an inconsistency in Yemoja's passive, which I don't like personally. You can see we've gone from 0% CDR is nothing, and 40% is 6. It's really hard for them to divide that number up. They don't want to have it as 0.65 increments. They want to have it as whole numbers. So if I sell all my items again, and we go again. So 0, I've got 0 here. From 10%, I get 0.1, right? From the first 10%. From the second 10%, I get another 0.1. From the next 10%, I get 0.2. When you reach the 30% CDR threshold, it's doubling what the past two 10% were. Does that make sense? So the first 10% is 0.1, the second 10% is 0.1, and the third and fourth are both worth 0.2. So it's really critical. Unless you're intending to build a lot of CDR, it's not worth stacking the passive. If you're simply not going to be hitting that 30% to 40% margin on CDR, do not build that way. It's not worth it. Yeah. Alright, and that is the God Guide for Yemoja. I really wanted to include some gameplay tips here, but unfortunately, because it's been banned in the recent rank queue, and I'm taking a week detox from rank now. I'm not going to have a video on here for at least a week on Yemoja, but I'll try and upload a video and link it in the description if you see it later than a week after it's uploaded. Follow my Twitter, and hopefully I'll be posting a Yemoja video when it gets let open in ranked. Again, this character is extremely hard to get a game on at the higher ranks and in competitive. She's extremely broken. So anyway, hope the guide helped. Let me know what I can do better next time. I'm going to try and pump some of these bad boys out. This has only taken me about 6 hours to do, and I think I figured out a way to speed up a little bit. But anything I've missed, apart from the gameplay situation, just let me know.